we're here to give you live commentary of business that was considered yesterday on the floor of the House and the business that we expect the House to consider this afternoon. My name is Taza Piri.
Good afternoon, and my name is Matimba Mkua. On sign language, we have Chola Kauma and Jason Manda. We go straight into looking at business that was considered on the floor of the House yesterday, Tuesday, 5th November 2024.
And when business resumed, Madam First Deputy Speaker did make some announcements. In the first announcement, Madam First Deputy Speaker informed the House that the Electoral Reforms Technical Committee, constituted by the Electoral Commission of Zambia, was conducting national sittings to receive public submissions on the electoral reforms with the objectives to review the legislative, administrative and policy framework for elections and identify areas that would require legal amendments and those that would require policy procedural changes. Madam First Deputy Speaker further informed the House that the sittings for Lusaka would be held at Mulungushi International Conference Center from Monday 4th to Friday 8th November 2024. She encouraged all honorable members to make submissions during the sittings on a voluntary basis.
In the second announcement, Madam First Deputy Speaker informed the House that the approval had been granted for the Catholic Church to hold Mass for Catholic members of Parliament and staff on Wednesday 6th November 2024 in the amphitheater at Parliament buildings. She stated that attendance was not restricted to members of the Catholic Church. She therefore encouraged all honorable members and staff to attend the event, which will take place from 12:30 hours to 13:50 hours.
And in the third announcement, Madam First Deputy Speaker recognized the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Rusangu Secondary School in Monze District and also from Handmaid Convent School in Lusaka District. Madam First Deputy Speaker, on behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, warmly welcomed the guests to the National Assembly.
In the other announcement, Madam First Deputy Speaker recognized the presence in the Speaker's gallery of staff from Parliament of Uganda, a delegation of 11 that was led by the leader of delegation, I beg your pardon, Mr. Agora James. And so Madam First Deputy Speaker, on behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, received the guests and warmly welcomed them to the National Assembly.
Thereafter, Madam First Deputy Speaker did make a ruling, and in her ruling, Madam First Deputy Speaker reminded the House that on Tuesday, 15th October 2024, when the House was considering question for oral answer number 31, and Honorable C. Mulenga MP, Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry, had just finished responding to a follow-up question by Mr. A.C. Mumba, Member of Parliament for Kantanshi. Dr. C. Andeleki, Member of Parliament for Katombola, raised a point of order premised on Article 72, 2B and C of the Constitution of Zambia, Chapter 1 of the Laws of Zambia, and Section 2 of the National Assembly Powers and Privileges Act, Chapter 12 of the Laws of Zambia, as to whether Mr. J.E. Banda, MP, Mr. R.K. Totela, MP, and Mr. N. Chilangwa, MP, were still members of Parliament within the definition of the National Assembly Powers and Privileges Act.
The status of Mr. J.E. Banda, MP, before rendering her ruling, Madam First Deputy Speaker gave a background to the events that led to the point of order. She informed the House that on Thursday, 20 June 2024, the Zambia Police Service informed the general public of the formal arrest of Mr. J.E. Banda, MP, and that he had been transferred to Chipata in the Eastern Province. She stated that on Monday, 5th August 2024, the nation was informed by the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security of Mr. J.E. Banda, MP's escape from lawful custody while receiving medical attention at Chipata General Hospital and had been missing since then.
In rendering her ruling, Madam First Deputy Speaker referred to Article 77(1) of the Constitution and Standing Order 223 of the National Assembly of Zambia Standing Orders 2024 on a member's failure to attend sittings. In line with the aforementioned, authorities, Madam First Deputy Speaker, found that there was no valid reason for Mr. J.E. Banda the MP's continued absence from the House and referred the matter to the Committee on Privileges and Absences for determination until Friday, 15th November 2024.
On the status of Mr. R.K. Chitotela MP and Mr. N. Chilangwa MP, before rendering her ruling, Madam First Deputy Speaker gave a background that on Monday, 22nd July 2024, the subordinate court of the first class for Kawambwa district delivered a judgment in the matter of the people v. Ronald Kaoma Chitotela, Nixon Chilangwa and 6 others, cause number 1 over 124 SG over 2021, and found Mr. N. Chilangwa MP guilty of malicious damage to property and sentenced him to 5 years imprisonment with hard labor, and further that the court found Mr. R.K. Chitotela MP guilty of arson and committed him to the High Court for sentencing.
And she then reminded the House that on Wednesday, 24th July 2024, Mr. A. Anakoka, Member of Parliament for Luwena, raised a point of order on the status of Mr. R.K. Chitotela MP and Mr. N. Chilangwa MP after the judgment of the subordinates court, and that ruling was delivered on the floor of the House by the Honorable Madam Speaker the same day. In that regard, Madam First Deputy Speaker ruled the point of order by Dr. C. Andeleki MP inadmissible as it sought to reopen a matter that had already been decided upon.
After that ruling by Madam First Deputy Speaker, 2 urgent matters without notice were raised under Standing Order 142, and the first one came from Shangombo Member of Parliament, Mr. Muvika. This was on the recurring incidences of human-animal conflict in Shangombo district, and so this matter was inadmissible. The second one came from Chiengi Member of Parliament, Ms. Given Katuta. This was on the unavailability of mental health drugs in health facilities countrywide. This matter was equally inadmissible.
And the House considered questions for oral answer numbers 93 to 95 understanding 82, and the House also considered questions for oral answer numbers 96, 97, 98 and 100 understanding order 80. Question for oral answer number 99 understanding order 80. The member being absent, the question lapsed.
After that, the Minister of Finance and National Planning moved a motion of supply on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year 1st January 2024 to 31st December 2025, presented to the National Assembly in September 2024. The Minister announced that he was the bearer of a message from the President of the Republic of Zambia recommending the motion for consideration of the House. And so, there being no further debate, the debate on the motion stood adjourned, and so we expect a debate to resume today, and so the House adjourned accordingly yesterday at 18:06 hours, and so this is business that was considered on the floor of the House yesterday, Tuesday, 5th November 2024. Just now we shift our attention and we look at today's order paper.
Exactly, Batimba, and today we do expect some announcements, and we expect the House to consider urgent matters without notice, and we do expect the House to consider 5 questions for oral answer understanding order 80, and we expect resumption of debate on the motion of supply. This is a motion that was moved by the Minister of Finance and National Planning, Honorable Dr. Stimbeko Sokotwani.
Yes, today on the order paper, it being a Wednesday, we expect Chiluvi Member of Parliament to move a private member's motion. This is formulate agroecological zone-based agricultural policy. And so in brief, that's business that is expected to be considered on the floor. Just now we take you to the chamber for live parliamentary proceedings. Good afternoon.
Honorable members of Parliament, Mr. Speaker.
Embassy of Zambia, proud and free, land of faith and joy in unity, victors in the struggle for our rights. We want freedom's fight, oh, one, strong and free. Africa is our motherland, fashioned with and blessed by God to them. Let us all have people join as one, brothers under the sun, oh, one, strong and free. One land and one nation is our pride. Dignity and peace in Zambia's sky, like a noble eagle in its flight. Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free. Praise be to God, praise be, bless our great Zambia, Zambia, Zambia. Remain with them under the flag of our land. Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free.
Prayer. Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliament for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to consider with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you've been pleased to call to the performance of such important responsibilities in this land. Let your blessing descend upon us here in Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just, faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country, and of those whose interests you've committed to our church. Amen. Honorable members, I wish to recognize the presence in the public gallery of students and lecturers from Mulungushi University in Kapiriposhi district. On behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, I warmly welcome our visitors in our midst. I thank you. You may take your seats. Thank you. Honorable members, I wish to recognize the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Holy Cross Convent School in Lusaka district. On behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, I warmly welcome our visitors in our midst. I thank you. Urgent matters without notice. The Honorable Member from Kana.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on an urgent matter without notice, which matter I direct to the Minister of Home Affairs. Mr. Speaker, the National Registration Card is an important document, one which or without which an adult cannot do anything. You cannot get a job, you cannot do literally nothing. Today, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Home Affairs is conducting registration or issuance of digital NRCs. Reports everywhere suggest that officers are charging in some stations 10 kwacha, in other stations 20 kwacha. This is an exercise, Mr. Speaker, that is fully sponsored by government. Is the Minister of Home Affairs in order to allow this trend? Whereas, Mr. Speaker, others would think 10 kwacha is a small amount, there are many Zambians today who cannot afford a 10 kwacha, and this is an exercise that is sponsored by the state. Is the Minister of Home Affairs in order to sit and allow this to continue and deprive the Zambian people from accessing that very important document? I seek your indulgence.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Indeed, you said it's, the matter you've raised is quite important, but you can put in an urgent question so that the Honorable Minister would come back to the House. No, an urgent question. Put in an urgent question. Next, Honorable Member for Kasenengwa.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for this opportunity for the people of Kasenengwa to be heard in this House today. I rise on an urgent matter without notice. Now, Mr. Speaker, I come on behalf of the people of Kasenengwa. Right now, what is happening, Mr. Speaker, in Kasenengwa are that people mainly are surviving on mangoes and wild fruits and tubers called mupama. They cook it, boil it, maybe for 8 hours or so, then they have it for food. With mangoes, they boil them, chop them, then put them back again on the pot, mash them, and add a sweetener there. Whatever type of sweetener it is, that's what they reach, that's what they eat. Now, Mr. Speaker, the people of Kasenengwa have been asking me that mupama is finished, they cannot find it anymore in the bush. And the mangoes very soon will finish. Is the government going to consider increasing an allocation for relief base or cash for work so that they can at least find other survival means, because they are worried? Members say, the grace of God, we have had so many mangoes this year, at least people are able to survive. Once mangoes finish, will government be able to supply them with more maize so that at least they can get relief? This matter, Mr. Speaker, is directed to whosoever is in charge of government business, because her owner is not in here and the Minister of Agriculture is not in the House. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The matter you've just raised is an important one, but I hope also you took some steps as a Member of Parliament towards that, engaging our owner, the Vice President, DMMU, because this should, coming on the floor of the House, should be the last resort. You should have engaged the DC, you should have engaged her owner.
I did, Mr. Speaker.
However, may you take your seat? However, you can put in an urgent question. You put in an urgent question to the relevant ministry. Next, Honorable Member for Mkaika.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for giving this opportunity to the people of Mkaika. My matter of urgent matter without notice is directed to the Minister of Agriculture, but I've seen he's not in the House. But however, the leader of business house is there. Maybe he can attend to it. Mr. Speaker, the matter is concerning the SAF program that some people got. That is the loan, the agriculture support program that our people got, more especially from Mkaika. Those that were given to the public workers and also the farmers. Now the problem is, Mr. Speaker, as you are aware that because of the drought, people did not harvest, and those who got these loans this time around, more especially the workers, they are being forced to pay that money. They are being deducted. Once their salaries are in, the monies are being deducted there and then, without maybe agreeing with those people, and also to come and discuss on the table on how they are going to pay back that amount. The problem is that that money is deducted in full without leaving anything to them. And these are workers, Mr. Speaker, that they really depend on their salaries for their living. Now, my matter is directed to the Minister of Agriculture so that he can come and tell the people of Mkaika on how these loans are going to be paid,
Honorable Member,
how they are being done to be deducted in such a manner that...
Order, Honorable Member. May you take your seat? I think your time is up, and the matter cannot be admitted because it's not of recent occurrence. It's an ongoing matter, so it does not qualify. Let's make progress. Questions for oral answers, understanding order 80. The Honorable Member for Pososhi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, permit me to join His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zambia, in rushing to congratulate the President-elect of the United States of America, Donald Trump. Mr. Speaker, let me take this opportunity to also address the President that the will of the
order, Honorable Member, order. You were just supposed to mention about the number of your question. On the contrary, you started debating, and this is not order. Avoid debating while he's seated, honorable members. I think you've been guided, honorable member for Lupososhi. Avoid debating.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the guidance. Mr. Speaker, question 101.
The Honorable Minister of Green Economy and Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I noticed that the parties that are struggling even to put in place their presidential candidates are taking advantage of anything that looks like...
Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Because you are debating while he's seated, I can't hear from here. May the Honorable Minister proceed. Proceed. We didn't get what you were saying.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, Honorable Emmanuel Msonda, Member of Parliament for Lupososhi, has asked the Minister of Green Economy and Environment the following question. A, what measures the government is taking against charcoal burning to mitigate the effects of climate change? Mr. Speaker, our answer is as follows. Government, through the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment, has taken decisive steps to curb the illegal trade and movement of charcoal, which is crucial in the fight against climate change, especially following the severe drought experienced during the 2023-2024 rainfall season. The government has identified areas of concentrated charcoal production or hotspots to address the rising levels of unsustainable charcoal production in these sites. The ministry has temporarily suspended the issuance of cordwood permits for charcoal production in districts such as Iteziteji, Mumbwa, and Shivuyunji, in accordance with the Forest Act. You may further wish, Mr. Speaker, to note that the Forestry Department is responsible for enforcing forestry laws and regulations, including those related to charcoal production. Through collective efforts, the police and other law enforcement agencies are involved in combating illegal charcoal production and trade. Mr. Speaker, in addition, government continues to assess tree stock levels and may extend this suspension to other districts should need be. Mr. Speaker, the House may wish to note that government is in the process of putting up new charcoal regulations which will designate specific areas for charcoal production in each province. These zones will help control and regulate charcoal production, ensuring it is done in a sustainable manner and preventing further environmental degradation. Mr. Speaker, the Zambian government has partnered with various stakeholders, including the private sector, to promote alternative energy sources like liquefied premium gas, LPG, and charcoal briquettes as cleaner alternatives to traditional charcoal. This is part of government's effort to reduce reliance on charcoal and mitigate the negative impacts of its production on forest and the environment. Additionally, the government, together with its partners, supports community forest management groups to empower local communities and provide them with alternative livelihood options, thereby reducing pressure on forest and promoting sustainable forest management. Mr. Speaker, government has also intensified sensitization and awareness on the negative effects of charcoal burning among charcoal burners and users. The messages are centered on the harmful effect of cutting trees on livelihoods and tree planting. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Any supplementary question? The Honourable Member for Kafinsa.
Mr. Speaker, the people of Kafinsa wish to add a follow-up question to this very, very important topic regarding charcoal burning. Mr. Speaker, you are aware that the people that have been participating in this particular activity actually do it for economic purposes. I don't think that anyone would be interested to do charcoal burning if there was no economic value that was coming out of this particular activity. Minister, in your response, you have mentioned alternative sources of energy, and one of them is liquefied petroleum gas, which is LPG. Minister, the issue of the cost of LPG in making energy available for cooking and other methods, Mr. Speaker, I did not hear the minister explain how that particular component is being handled. My follow-up question, therefore, Mr. Speaker, what is government doing to ensure that alternative sources of energy such as LPG are made affordable? Mr. Speaker, majority of our people are not able to afford liquefied petroleum gas. I thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Green Economy and Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the Member of Parliament for Kafinsa for that very good question. Mr. Speaker, indeed it is true that LPG currently is on the higher side in terms of price, and this is because in Zambia we haven't been using gas. It's becoming a new thing. We haven't been using gas for the past years. It's only recent that we are now trying to promote gas as an alternative source for cooking, energy for cooking. And what are we doing to ensure that it's made affordable? Mr. Speaker, we are already in talks with various players. I will not mention the countries. Obviously, we are still, the discussions are still in its infancy stages to ensure that we bring as many players as possible on the market. And once the supply of gas is in abundance, we expect that even the price will be moderated, will be quite affordable. Now, the campaign to ensure that people don't just depend on charcoal and electricity for cooking, but should use LPG is still ongoing, and we're scaling it up so that those that can afford at the moment should do transition to using LPG for cooking, whilst we are putting all these measures in place to ensure that this gas is made available and cheaper to those that at the moment cannot afford. So, Mr. Speaker, we are doing everything possible to ensure that in the next few years, we'll have abundant supply of this gas at an affordable price to those that currently cannot afford. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Pososhi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Minister, you stated that the steps you are taking is in suspension of issuance of charcoal permits and sensitization of farmers. But my question is to you is, what based strategies have you put in place to restore the degraded areas because of charcoal burning throughout the country?
The Honourable Minister of Green Economy and Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank Honourable Msonda for that very good question. Mr. Speaker, yes, I did mention that we suspended some districts in terms of trading and movement of charcoal, and I did mention the 3 districts in Central Province. Now, what are we doing to ensure that we restore trees in the areas where there's been massive illegal charcoal production? Mr. Speaker, you've heard us from time and again as government, not only this ministry, but different ministries, encouraging people to take the path of restoration, meaning planting more trees, replanting, and also we are working through the Forest Department, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that in areas, in protected areas where these trees have been cut, we allow the forest or the forest to regenerate. We allow the trees to grow again, and we are doing that by ensuring that these areas we maximize on the patrols, we protect these areas so that they are protected from bush burning, which ends up damaging the tree where it's supposed to regenerate. So we have scaled up, working with cooperating partners, we have scaled up measures to ensure that we plant more trees. We have also scaled up messages to ensure that in the various areas, people should plant more trees. That's one of the ways that will help us to ensure that where so many trees have been cut down, we should have trees be replaced. And I want to take advantage of being on the floor of this House, Mr. Speaker, to thank your leadership, the leadership of Madam Speaker, who also has been pushing this agenda to ensure that members of Parliament in their various constituencies get involved in ensuring that we plant more trees. These are measures that will help us to ensure that there's restoration and we ensure that we gain more trees to replace those that have been cut down. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kawata.
I'm grateful, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Minister, the hotspots that you've identified, like Mumbai, it is Tezi, and also I believe Nangoma, including also Lupososhi, because for him to have come to this house to ask a question, I'm sure he feels the effect of charcoal burning. I would have loved in your statement if you had also given a directive or direction on how the traditional leaders are coming in to support this cause. But my substantive question is, how much support are you receiving from these members of parliament in terms of fighting the issue of charcoal burning in our various constituencies? I thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Green Economy and Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the Member of Parliament for Kabwata for that very good question. Let me start by touching the point he raised regarding the involvement of their Royal Highnesses in this fight. I must acknowledge here, Mr. Speaker, that we are receiving a lot of support from their Royal Highnesses in ensuring that we protect the trees, and where necessary, we plant more trees. And the past 2 weeks, I've had a lot of engagements, Mr. Speaker. Recently, I was in Chipata, where I met His Majesty Nkosi Amakosi, where we also touched on these issues, and I can confirm that he is supporting the fight against deforestation and to ensure that the trees are protected and we plant more trees. I had meetings with the Senior Chief Nsefu of Mambwe, Senior Chief Jumbe, Chief Mkanya, all of whom are joining the fight against deforestation. I had a meeting with 55 traditional leaders in Chipata, and in there Chief Monokwa was leading the group, again where we agreed that in these chiefdoms we must protect the trees. I'm just coming from the Copper Belt, where I had a meeting with His Royal Highness Chief Chiwala. I was in touch with the Chief Nkambo, the chairperson of the House of Chiefs, all of whom are in agreement that we must double our efforts to protect the trees. So, in a nutshell, we are receiving a lot of support from their Royal Highnesses because these activities are happening in their chiefdoms, and I'm extremely elated as Member of Parliament, as Minister of Green Economy, for the support that is coming from there. In terms of how much support we are receiving from the parliamentarians, I did allude to this earlier when I talked about the leadership of Madam Speaker in ensuring that in our various constituencies we must plant trees. But I want to appeal to the members of Parliament, if only we can get a bit more support in terms of ensuring that you help us to monitor and educate the people about the dangers of cutting down these trees. Mr. Speaker, the importance of the indigenous trees cannot be overemphasized. The whole world is looking at Africa in ensuring that we protect the indigenous trees that are extremely important in tapping the excess carbon, and it's important that we protect these trees and plant more trees. So I can only appeal for more support from my colleagues, the parliamentarians, to support us in their constituencies to ensure that the trees are protected. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Bwana Mkubwa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Minister of Green Economy, for the answers you are providing. I just wanted to find out, for you to push and achieve something, the measures you are taking, I think there should also be an incentive, the other side, for people to migrate, or because the issue of change management. So in terms of, let's say the example you've given in terms of LPG gas, the little gas stoves. Have you looked at them being zero rated in terms of importing as on a tax incentive, so that we can have more of those products to give our people who then migrate from this using of charcoal, as it were? So I think that's also another important aspect. So what have you done to ensure that, that those incentives, either in LPG or provision of gas stoves, small gas stoves for farmers or for people in the rural areas, as it were? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Green Economy and Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the Member of Parliament for Bwana Mkubwa for that very good question. Mr. Speaker, there are various measures, like I said, that we are putting in place, including what he has just touched on. We are working with different players. We are also educating the rural communities on the need to use cook stoves that are very effective. And we are rolling out these cook stoves, particularly in the rural areas where LPG might not be affordable. Then, in terms of what incentives, Mr. Speaker, many of our people in rural areas have been depending, their livelihood is dependent on the forest. Some of them, cutting down trees, not only for charcoal production, but as firewood. So in terms of incentives, we are coming up with different programs and projects that will make our people who for a long time have depended on charcoal production to receive some benefits, that when they protect the tree, they will receive something in return, and they can also use these trees that they are protecting for sustainable agriculture, but also for honey or bee keeping, and in return they'll be getting some money from there. So there are so many programs that we are rolling out. We're just coming from Eastern Province with the support of, through Ministry of Finance, with the support of the World Bank, where we've just launched a program called Eastern Province Jurisdictional Sustainable Landscape, where working with the private players, will be giving some incentives to the local communities who protect the forest and protect the trees. So there are many issues that we are looking at, including what he has just suggested, that have you looked at the issue of zero rating for LPG? It's another good proposal. We'll look at it. But yes, there are so many incentives that we are providing, which will help our rural communities who are protecting trees, and to also transition them from depending on trees and the forest. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Itezitezi.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to make a follow-up question. Coming from a district, Mr. Speaker, which was identified as one of the hotspots for charcoal burning, I would, before I ask the question, I would just want to mention that the intention to identify the 4 districts as hotspots, it was a good intention, but the people of Itezitezi, they thought it was going to mean well if it covered all the districts, because climate change, it has no boundaries. But my substantive question, Minister, is that your staffs in the 4 districts that have affected this ban, they are working under very difficult conditions. They don't have inventory machinery, they don't have vehicles, but we are expecting that the staffs in these 4 districts, they ensure that there is compliance. Last month, we had a case where a number of people came to cut the trees in one of our forests, but we had no capacity to go and engage them, to go and stop them. We just watched them. What plans, Minister, to these 4 districts that you know that they are hot spots, that you have put up to support them with vehicles and the capacity to ensure that there is compliance in mitigating this challenge that we are facing? Thank you so much.
The Honourable Minister of Green Economy and Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I also want to thank the Member of Parliament for Itezitezi for that question. Yes, Mr. Speaker, we are working on capacitating our district forest officers and also provincial forest officers with mobility. So working again through the Treasury and other cooperating partners, very soon we'll be assisting some of the provinces to ensure that they are equipped with working tools such as vehicles. In certain areas we are pondering or thinking of also providing motorbikes. So we'll be rolling out these working tools slowly as and when resources are made available. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Last, the Honourable Member for Chengi.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I don't take this lightly. Honourable Minister, I'm listening to your answers. I just want to find out, I know you've answered, but if you look at Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe has put in place laws which protects or prevents the burning of the forest anyhow, or transporting of charcoal anyhow. There should be a permit. As much as I appreciate this is a source of income, if you've taken time in your constituency at Mtendere, you go and check who are dealing in this charcoal. With your permission, Mr. Speaker, the Zimbabweans, the Shona people. So I want to find out what can be done to, emulate Zimbabwe. Because these people, when you're traveling at night, Mr. Speaker, there are trucks 30 tons full of nothing but charcoal. Please, is it possible that we can come up with a policy or laws like Zimbabwe where it's not everyone burning our forests? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Green Economy and Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the Member of Parliament for Chiangi for another very good question. Mr. Speaker, the challenge that we have is the weak enforcement of the law. The enforcement of the law is needs to be stiffened up, stiffened up a bit or much more. It's true that the example she has given, that our colleagues in the country she has mentioned are complying with their regulations. Here we have regulations, but it's the enforcement. It's true, like she has said, you go to these markets, you go to Chawama, you go to Mtendere, you check on the highways at night, the trucks that are moving, and you even wonder how they are passing some of these checkpoints with all those trucks laden with bags and bags of charcoal. We are working towards revising the regulations, Mr. Speaker, so that we can tighten these regulations, stiffen them, so that the people that are involved in illegal charcoal production are brought to book. So we are not saying that we are going to have a total ban. I just need to extend this answer. We are not saying we are going to have a total ban on charcoal, but we are going to promote legal production of charcoal in certain designated points of the provinces. So we are working around tightening the laws, Mr. Speaker, so that we can further protect the trees. Thank you.
Thank you. We make progress. Next question, the Honourable Member for Lundazi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving a chance to the people of Lundazi to ask question 102, though he was entitled to 2 questions, being the owner of the question.
He delayed to indicate, so you can proceed. I'll encourage him to conversate with the minister. He delayed to indicate. You can proceed with your question.
Question 102, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. The Honourable Member of Parliament for Lundazi asks the Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development a question in 4 parts. At A, when the rehabilitation of the Chipata Lundazi Chama Matumbo Road will commence. At B, who the contractor for the project is. And at C, what the estimated cost of the project is. And at D, what the time frame for the completion of the project is. Our response, Mr. Speaker, is as follows. At A, the rehabilitation of the 222 kilometers of the Chipata-Lundazi-Chama Matumbo Road will be rehabilitated using the grant from the Millennium Challenge compact procurement of the contract. Apologies, Mr. Speaker. The rehabilitation of the 222 kilometers of the Chipata-Lundazi-Chama Matumbo Road will be rehabilitated using a grant from the Millennium Challenge Compact account. Once procurement are concluded, the 30 kilometers between Chama and Matumbo, which is in a deplorable state, will be rehabilitated through government funding expected to commence in 2025, while the remaining 233 kilometers will be rehabilitated once funds are secured by the Treasury. B. The contractors for the rehabilitation works will be identified once the procurement processes are concluded. C. The cost estimate is 3.89 billion Zambian kwacha for the 222 kilometer section and 526 million for the 30 kilometer section, and at D, the time frame for the project is anticipated or estimated to be 3 years. And Mr. Speaker, let me add some meat to this answer and state that a grant agreement was signed on 17th October 2024 between the Government Republic of Zambia and the Millennium Challenge Corporation under the Farm to Market Compact. The grant will include financing for the road section from Chipata via Lundazi to Chief Magodi area, covering a distance of about 222 kilometers. This would be implemented, like I've said, by the Millennium Project Completion Agency, Zambia, under the Roads and Access Project, with a loan portion of about 350 million United States dollars. Procurements for the feasibility studies, detailed engineering design and environmental and social impact assessment for the improvement of prioritized roads were launched on 29th October 2024. The tender for the procurement of the contractor has been circulated and will conclude on 18th December 2024. Of the remaining 263 kilometers, a section of 30 kilometers between Chamba and Matumbo, which is in a rather deplorable state, will be undertaken through government funding expected to commence in 2025 at the sum of 526 million kwacha. The government is currently carrying out periodic maintenance works on the section of the 90-kilometer road stretch from Chipata to Mwase-Mpangwe section of the Chipata-Lundazi Road. The last 233 kilometers section will be rehabilitated once funds are made available, and Mr. Speaker, government is determined to ensure that this project is completed in time, given that Lundazi Bridge has already been completed, which as at 2021 had cut off Lundazi from the rest of the province, Lundazi Bridge and Misuze Bridge. Mr. Speaker, the new Dawn administration is in a hurry to take development to the rest of the country. I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Lundazi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this answer which the Minister is providing to the people of Lundazi, though very unsatisfactory. It is unsatisfactory because these works are supposed to be done at once But now you are giving us piecemeals. You are talking about 90 kilometers, 222 kilometers, 232 kilometers. Is the government committed to doing this work, or it is now just rhetoric? I submit.
The Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I understand the honourable member in the manner she has framed her question. There is and must be some aroma of visibility of representation back home in Lundazi. So I'll still answer that question in the manner I think I should answer it, to indicate through Mr. Speaker that the so-called piecemeal is not actually piecemeal, Mr. Speaker. A stretch of 222 kilometers done at once is not piecemeal at all. And it's 222 kilometers. The 90 kilometers is the maintenance works which are currently being undertaken before the new contractor comes on site to do the whole stretch from Chipata to Magodi area. And I think that, being area member of parliament, you know what I'm talking about, because I was equally on that road just 3 weeks ago. So the issue to do with the entire stretch of the 485 kilometers that was emphasized in your question is a function of funding, because the monies that were made available, and I think it is 381 million United States dollars for this particular compact, has been shared between Chipata, Lundazi, Magodi road stretch, and also Landless Corner, Mumbwa, so that we spread government projects and development across the country as the government is looking for funding to complete the other stretch of the road. This government wants to be visible everywhere, unlike concentrating just in one place, Mr. Speaker. For that reason, let me also allay any fears, if any, that this new dawn working government is aware of the challenges on the deplorable state of the Musolo Road, which links Chipata, Kaselengwa, Malambo, and Mukaika. And my ministry is paying particular attention to ensuring that that road should be in the priority pecking order in terms of consideration of government intervention. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The Honourable Member for Isoka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing the people of Isoka to ask a follow-up question. Honorable Minister, Chipata, Lundazi, Chama, Matumbo is a road which is an economic road which leads to Malawi. Same applies with Isoka, Mafinga Road, and Sansamwenje, Kanyala Road. These roads are economic roads. My question to you, Honorable Minister, is what assurance are you going to give to the people of Lundazi and Isoka for them to believe that these roads are going to be worked on? I submit, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member, the question was order. The question is specific. It's talking about Lundazi. The question is quite specific. Now you went off board. Maybe.
And Lundazi, Honorable Mr. Speaker.
Maybe the Honourable Minister, Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development would shed some light on that.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Honourable Member of Parliament for Isoka for that question, and indeed to give me the opportunity to clarify and place emphasis and also state that actions speak louder than words. In my earlier statement, I have indicated, Mr. Speaker, that bids, processes to do with procurements, processes are already out there, and that by 18th of December, these processes will close so that the best bidder is picked as a contractor for that road. And these monies, which were signed publicly for on the 17th of October 2024, at Mulungushi, were actually on the same day communicated to the rest of the nation that a particular portion of that money was going to be dedicated to deal with this particular road. So the assurance I can give you, Honorable Member for Isoka, is that President HH, as you know, keeps his word. The same way he promised free education is there. The same way he promised retention of meal allowances is there. The same way he promised to deal with the debt restructuring is there. The same way he promised to revitalize mines, KCM, Mopane, Shaft 28, Luvambe, all those mines are back and running. The same way he promised to resuscitate Mulungushi textiles, that textile is up and running. Mr. Speaker, the list is long. I was just giving a nice speech just to remind them that we have a president who delivers on promise and not political rhetoric. I thank you, sir.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Lundazi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You have talked about Millennium Challenge, which is an American account. I can't go without celebrating the victory of Trump, because they are helping us to do the road in Lundazi. And definitely, it's good to know that if you don't do this road, the question that I have, Honorable Minister, is this.
Order, may you take your seat?
We are failing to resolve issues with the mouse.
Honorable Member, instead of you to ask a question, you are talking about which does not exist here. What do you mean? May you just ask a question?
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. The question that I have for you, Honorable Minister, is that the works which are being done at the moment on the Chipata-Lundazi Road are not satisfactory. You were there. Where you left them, that is where they are up to today. And I was just coming from Lundazi. That's why the president says you tell him lies. I've just come from Lundazi. I want to give you the truth. No, allow me to speak, Mr. Speaker. I've just come from Lundazi. You inspected the works which are being done, and they are still at the same spot. Now, Honorable Minister, if for the past 4 months they have just been moving at 6 kilometers, when are they going to reach Lundazi? I submit, Mr. Speaker.
The Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity, and I want to thank the Honourable Member for Lundazi for her question, in which she asserts that the works on that road, the maintenance works, if I might qualify, are not satisfactory. Now, if she had followed me closely when I was giving the initial response to her question, I did clearly indicate, Mr. Speaker, that the funding we are talking about from the Millennium Compact will deal with the stretch from Chipata to Magodi. So it is the entire works program from Chipata, which means that the works that you are referring to have been overtaken by events, because this new project or contract will have to commence from Chipata to Magodi. So that is the situation, and gracious enough, because that particular stretch, they're just doing maintenance works, and let's wait and see what this particular contractor who will be given this lot of 222 kilometers will do. And I would like to assure you that His Excellency, President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, does remind Cabinet and procuring agencies at all times that they must adhere to the principle of the right price in terms of procuring goods and services on the behalf of government. They must ensure quality in order to attain value for money, and also to be able to deliver those projects in a timely manner so that the citizens can begin to derive a service. What you are saying is exactly what the President has been saying, and I'm happy you have been following him very well. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Kasenengwa.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. Honourable Minister, thank you very much for your answers. I'm sure the people of Lundazi are excited to hear your assurances today. Now that in your questions you also went wide to talk about some issues that are not in the question, and you also touched on Msoro Road, which starts from Chipata Central, Kasenengwa, Malambo, and going to Mkaika, and then you have indicated here that it's one of the priority roads to be worked on. I know right now the people of Kasenengwa are very excited, and they're even expectant. Last year, when the same question came up here, the Honorable Minister of Local Government said it's in a 10-year plan. Today you have indicated that it's a priority project. How soon is that priority going to materialize, Honorable Minister? I'm sure the people in Kasenengwa are eagerly waiting for this answer as they watch this TV on their solar-powered televisions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, I would like to reiterate that the Msoro Road is within the bouquet of roads in that particular region that government is paying close attention to as to their state, because that particular area is highly economic in terms of production and productivity, particularly of produce, very essential to revitalizing the economy of the Eastern Province and this country. So it is one of those roads that are receiving the relevant attention. In the like manner, on the adjacent side, we have now under construction as we speak the Katete-Chanida Road because of its economic importance to this country. So such as the Msoro Road is one of those roads, and we are not shy to indicate that we know that it's not in a good state, it is a deplorable state, but we are paying attention to it, and as and when funds permit, this is one of the roads that is in a higher pecking order in terms of priority. I thank you, sir.
Thank you. We make progress. Next question. The Honourable Member for Gwembe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the good people of Gwembe, question number 103.
The Acting Minister of Agriculture. The Acting Minister of Agriculture, question 103.
Mr. Speaker, in responding to a question asked by Mr. Simu Zingivi, who asked when the government will operationalize the Chaboboma irrigation scheme in Gwembe district, A. B. What the cause of the delay in operationalizing scheme is, and C. What short and long-term measures are being taken to mitigate the effects of drought in Southern Province and other parts of the country. Mr. Speaker, government has plans to operationalize the Chaboboma irrigation scheme in Gwembe district before the end of this year, 2024. B. The cause of the delay in operationalizing the scheme has been due to constrained financial resources. C. 1. Short-term measures to mitigate the impact of drought in Southern Province and other parts of the country. 1. African Development Bank is in the process of contracting a firm to provide 35 solar-powered facilities for small-scale farmers, of which Gwembe district will be a beneficiary. 2. Smallholder farmers have been identified as a group that requires support with irrigation facilities, equipment to grow crop all year round. And 2. Long-term measures to mitigate the impact of drought in Southern Province and other parts of the country. Government is in the process of identifying potential dam sites. These sites will be assessed and possibly be developed into multi-purpose dams for irrigation and other uses. Additionally, other areas will make use of groundwater and solar-powered boreholes and will be equipped with appropriate irrigation facilities. And 2, the government is also negotiating with Zambian banks to include irrigation on the credit window SAF. This is part of the CATSIP agenda. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
The Honourable Member for Kafinsa.
I thank you once again, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to ask our Honour the Vice President a follow-up question on this water scheme in Gwembe. Madam Vice President, you are aware that there are two ways of undertaking irrigation. You get the water from a specific source, and then you pump the water into the farm area. And you are aware, Madam Vice President, that the cost of solar is hampering the ability of our farmers to be able to get that water that has been harvested. This project has got one area where the water will accumulate, but the water has to be pumped into the farm blocks, and that poses a challenge with the cost of solar. So my question to you, Madam Vice President, for our farmers in Gwembe to be able to access this water that they need for farming, what is government doing to make sure that those solar-powered systems for irrigation are made affordable for our farmers in Gwembe? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I honor the Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to thank the Honourable Member for Kafinsa for that very, indeed, important question. I think, like Honorable Member has explained, those are the challenges that are there, that we have water in itself. We will need energy for it to be able to be of good use. And government is aware. And when you say the cost of solar, I think this is where we pronounce, this government has already pronounced that solar components, solar energy components must be zero rated. That is one of the interventions that this government is putting in place, so that solar energy cannot just be available, but it should be accessible to the people. Rather, the two of them must be there. We should have it and then let people also access it. So government is working by ensuring that the cost of solar components are zero rated, so that we can reduce on the cost of solar energy into the farming component, the pumping of water. Thank you.
Thank you, Her Honor. Honorable Member for Gwembe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Honor, the Vice President would like to thank you for reassuring the people of Gwembe that soon and very soon, Chapoboma irrigation scheme will be operational. Being a valley, rain is not assured, because even this year the predictions is that in the valleys it will start around December. For us, that is worrying. Therefore, your answers are giving hope to the people of Gwembe. Thank you so much, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next question. The Honorable Member for Chiengi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to congratulate Donald Trump, because I'm a woman of God. I've been fasting and praying for him to win. So I'm very happy. As you can see my face, I'm very happy. I think this is the real game changer in politics. My question is 104, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Member of Parliament for Chiengi asks the Minister of Education, A, how many special schools for autistic children there were countrywide as of March 2024? B, what the total number of trained teachers specialized in teaching autistic children countrywide was as of the date at A? And C, what measures are being taken to ensure that children living with autism attain full secondary school education? Mr. Speaker, I wish to inform the House as follows. As of March 2024, there were 3 special schools for autistic children countrywide, namely Bauleni and UTH special schools in Lusaka and St. Murumba special school in Choma. However, the House may wish to note that there is a policy of inclusive education, an approach that ensures all children, regardless of their abilities or disabilities, have the right to quality education and learning opportunities. The intervention includes children with autism spectrum disorder, a neurological and developmental disorder that affects communication, social interaction, and behavior. Given this, learners with minor autism are in the mainstream of education, a comprehensive effort to ensure that every child can learn and grow side by side, benefiting all. In addition, children with severe and profound cases of autism are enrolled in special schools and units. B, there is no single trained teacher specialized in neurodevelopmental disorder to teach autistic children countrywide as of March 2024. This is due to the fact that currently teacher training does not consider autism as a standalone course, but is taught as a topic under education for children with intellectual disabilities. However, the government has been orienting teachers on how to teach learners with autism in all the special schools and units countrywide. C, the government has implemented various initiatives and strategies to support children with autism in accessing and succeeding in secondary education. These efforts encompass policy reforms, enhanced teacher training, inclusive practices, and collaboration with communities and partners. And below are key areas of action. Policy adjustments, curriculum revisions, inclusive teacher recruitment, where a 10% recruitment allocation is reserved for teachers with disabilities, and if this quota is unmet, teachers with special education qualifications are prioritized to enhance learning for children with disabilities. We also have special support for staff, teacher training and support, 3 inclusive classroom practices, 4 accessible learning materials, 5 parental involvement, peer support programs, anti-bullying measures, community partnerships, collaboration with partners and NGOs, screening for special disabilities, screening tools developed in collaboration with UNICEF, and site servers help in early identification. And 20 teachers facilitate this process to ensure appropriate support is provided. We also have provincial assessment centers, also transitioning plan, strengthening special education units, and sensitization campaigns. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Supplementary question, the Honorable Member for Chiengi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we must admit that we failed most of our people in Zambia who live with who are autistic, and also people living with who are living the disabled. And it's my prayer that this government may give us something new. Mr. Speaker, I've been just told or informed by the minister that there are only 3 schools in the whole country for children with autistic, it's children with autism. It's breaking my heart because we've been sidelining these children. Why would we only have 3 schools? What about a child who comes from Chiengi? Which school are you going to take the child to? So my question is, why is it that we've paid little attention to these children? Because their parents have got nowhere where to take this. Because I've been informed that we only have 1 government school and the rest are private schools which seem to be not affordable for those who cannot afford. I want to find out as to why we neglected the children who are autistic. I thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Education.
Well, Mr. Speaker, probably it is a legacy problem, but I think you are right. Strictly speaking, we should have taken care of autistic children, and also generally even the disabled children in various disabilities. But the autistic children who are mild, they are integrated in our mainstream schools. But those who are severe, they're the ones who have their separate schools. I was talking about Bauleni and UTH, as well as St. Mulumba Special School in Choma. But I think that we could do it enough because there are so many. The population which was in the 70s is not the same population which is now. So there are quite many now autistic children. And I think we need to put a mind to this problem. I think it is actually growing in Zambia. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Kabata.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Minister, I believe that children that are living with autism, if you look at the statistics, actually they have actually gone up high. And my worry is the issue to do with private schools. There are some private schools that are busy getting these children without engaging teachers who understand the special needs for these children. And they are charging parents exorbitant prices. And most of these private schools that are dotted around Lusaka, they're exploiting their parents. I wanted to find out what measures are you putting up in place as government, especially your ministry, to ensure that parents that have got children with autism are not exploited when it comes to education? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Education.
I can only borrow what the member of Mchangi said, that teaching children with such a disability is a complex one also. So we may just have to have a number of schools which are government in order to handle this problem. Otherwise, it requires a skill. It's a rare skill for you to teach a child who has autism, because mostly it's a complex neurodevelopmental condition that affects social interaction, communication, interest, and behavior. So autism is typically diagnosed in early childhood, and its symptoms can vary widely among individuals. So I think we just need to scale up the government schools to handle this problem. But otherwise, it requires a skill which might look expensive, but it's worthy trying to help the kids who are born this way. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Chiengi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Minister, I would like just to find out from you as executive member, if we cannot borrow the education system from South Africa or Zimbabwe. In South Africa, they have schools which the government is, like if you, they are private schools, the government is also giving like grants to such schools. Even hospitals, the challenge we have is that these children, some are intelligent, they want to be lawyers or accountants, but here they cannot reach, they cannot get to their dreams. So my question is, can't we borrow this kind of curriculum so that even the teachers to be trained, because I don't think there are any courses that are being offered in our country to be teaching such children. There are a lot, especially for us who are coming from the rural areas. We become hopeless. We don't know what to say to their parents. So my question is, can't we borrow this kind of curriculum from either Zimbabwe or especially South Africa, which has done so well in this area? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Education.
As it were, I think this is something where I talked about curriculum. Each curriculum, first of all, you compare yourselves. We had this 2013 Zambia National Curriculum Framework, which has been updated to recognize 13 categories of special education needs, including autism. So we can check what happens that side, but you must have also a homegrown curriculum yourself. You were just talking about in rural areas. The rural areas of Zambia are different. So you do it knowing that the environment is also quite important. So you factor even the environmental issues. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Mongu Central.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We also like, on behalf of the people of Mongu Central, to congratulate President Trump for his re-election. Even as we do that, we want to remind the Zambian people that the PF government holds the record of having expelled President Trump's ambassador from this country. So he's coming back for you. Honorable Minister, the people of Mongu wanted to find out whether government has any plans to increase the number of special needs schools that can accommodate our children with challenges of autism. I thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Education.
He's coming back for you.
Indeed, Mr. Speaker, government has got plans to increase the schools which can handle autism. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Member for Kafinsa.
Mr. Speaker, allow me first of all to thank the Member of Parliament for Chiengi for bringing this very, very important question, the question that relates to children that have challenges in acquiring education, in having teachers that can help them develop as fast as any other child that is growing up in Zambia. I'm aware, Honorable Minister, that we have an association in Zambia, the National Autism Association of Zambia, that focuses on lobbying for things that we are discussing today: infrastructure, the right teaching methods. Basically, we already have a right stakeholder that the ministry needs to sit down with and see how you can move together to resolve this problem. My question to you, Honorable Minister of Education. We used to have such schools. You've mentioned 3, but I know we must have more than that. I remember when I was growing up in Kitwe, we had a class at Rokana Basic School that was dedicated to such particular interventions. Are you considering as a ministry, within your early childhood development program, to simply decide this school in Lusaka, we're going to annex 1 class and dedicate it to children that are autistic? Are you considering those are steps that you can quickly take even now to say we've got 5 classes here, can we provide 1 class specifically for this particular type of education? Have you considered that option? Because this is something that the National Autism Association of Zambia have been lobbying for. Annexing 1 class out of a few, not all of them, but just a few schools within Zambia, so that the question of availability of such training is attended to. Mr. Speaker, that is my follow-up question.
The Honorable Minister of Education.
Mr. Speaker, we are already doing that annexing, not specifically for autism, but for disabilities. But because autism is quite a complex, if you like, I'm fearing to label it as a disease. It's a complex problem. I think that would be beneficial, I think. Thank you.
Next question, the Honorable Member for Wacho.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Question 105.
The Acting Minister, the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with your indulgence, allow me to congratulate the President-elect for the Republic of USA. Mr. Speaker, ourselves, we don't believe in politics of expedience. My colleagues on your left have always been accusing us of being stooges of the West, and that we are always associating with imperialists. But today, Mr. Speaker, they are congratulating our friend. Yes, the Americans are our friends, on your right. But for them, they are stooges. So they are congratulating us together with the U.S. And by the way, Mr. Speaker, the party colors for the Republicans is red, and ourselves is red. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Member of Parliament for Wacha, Honorable Mushanga, asked the following questions. A, what the rationale for the relocation of the Zambia Correctional Service headquarters from Kabwe to Lusaka was. B, whether the decision to relocate the headquarters was in conformity with the national decentralization policy. C, if so, whether a survey was conducted in order to ascertain the adverse effects of relocating the headquarters. D, whether the government has plans to rescind its decision. Mr. Speaker, our response. In responding to the questions asked by the Honourable Member, I wish to state as follows. A, the Zambia Correctional Service headquarters was relocated from Kabwe to Lusaka to, among other issues, to reduce on operational costs associated with frequent travel of staff to and from Lusaka. The costs related to fuels, servicing and repairing of operational vehicles due to wear and tear, allowances and exposure of officers to road carnage risks, as most as if not all strategic activities were conducted in Lusaka. Relocating the Zambia Correctional Service headquarters to Lusaka has also brought about positive effect on efficiency delivery of services and implementation of programs due to gains in man hours and productivity, as officers no longer spend more time traveling to and from Lusaka. The House may wish to note that the rank structure of the controlling officer of the institution has been adjusted from Commissioner to Commissioner General. By implication, the Commissioner General is a service chief and a member of the Central Joint Operations Committee, CJOC, Defense Council, and the Zambia National Service Advisory Council. This implies that the Commissioner General is obliged to fully participate in national and ceremonial events and other matters of urgent security nature. If the headquarters had remained in Kabwe, Commissioner General and his staff would have been making frequent trips to and from Lusaka. B, the Zambia Correctional Service has representation in all the 10 provinces and in most districts, and access to services offered by the institution has not in any way been negatively affected. Therefore, the decision to relocate the headquarters to Lusaka does not by any means go against the national decentralization policy, which aspires to take services closer to the people, as the action has not disrupted operations and administration of prisons and correctional centers both at provincial and district level. C, an internal analysis was conducted to determine if there would be any adverse effect by relocating the headquarters from Kabwe to Lusaka. The analysis shows that the option not to relocate the headquarters to Lusaka was undesirable, as it made operations and administration too costly. And D, the government has no immediate plans to rescind its decision to relocate the headquarters back to Kabwe. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary questions. The Honourable Member for Vocha. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you so much, Minister, for the responses provided. But, Honourable Minister, I just want to find out through you, did your government, through your ministry, consider the economic impact the movement of the Zambia Correctional Service headquarters has caused to the people of Kabwe and the economy around there? Because there are so many local people, Honourable Minister, who were doing business with the Zambia Correctional Service. But after the relocating of the headquarters from Kabwe to Lusaka, many of the local people who were doing business with the Zambia Correctional Service have been affected adversely. I thank you, Madam. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to state that there hasn't been any disruption whatsoever pertaining to economic activities in Kabwe. You may not be aware that Mukobeko Maximum Prison is the biggest prison facility we have in Zambia, and it has remained in Kabwe. We still have Mpima Prison in Kabwe. We have the farms in Kabwe. The milling plant is still in Kabwe. We have merely relocated a lean staff who are associated with the Commissioner General. The other operations have remained in Kabwe, Mr. President. Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Shuangandu.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Minister, appreciating your responses regarding this matter. However, like you have said, most of the activities have remained in the central province, be it agriculture, you have got Nansanga, you have got all these other bigger projects that have remained in the central province. But the challenge I would like to find out from you is that of accommodation. When allocating the housing units that were built for the men and women in uniform, when the headquarters was in the central province, the houses that you see catering for most of the high command officers was the top of the priority. How are you addressing that aspect, bearing in mind that most of the officers that were here accommodated in those modern housing infrastructure are from the command structure who are now moved to here? How are you helping them? Because even when we did this in the initial stages, remember this is not the first time. The challenge we had is the same one that you alluded to, where senior officers were shuttling between Kabwe and Lusaka, and we experienced a number of RTAs involving senior officers. So how are you addressing that? Knowing that for sure some of the officers are still have to traverse between Kabwe and Lusaka. I thank you, Madam Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would like to thank my colleague who has acknowledged that even during his time, he was aware of the difficulties that was being experienced by our officers when traveling from Kabwe to Lusaka and the inconveniences. Honorable colleague, we have taken note of that, and even in their submissions to my office pertaining to relocation, they factored in the issue of accommodation. The officers have been catered for. We are aware that under the conditions currently obtaining, officers who are not housed are entitled to a housing allowance. And the officers have not complained. They are happy about that situation. The houses that have been left in Kabwe, they have been occupied by other equally senior officers at the Zambia Correctional Service in Kabwe.
The Honorable Member for Shilubi.
Minister, Honorable Minister, can I be protected from those who are backing? Before I ask my question, Mr. Speaker, I also want to follow suit to congratulate America and American people who are the biggest democrats referred to as such. And I think he also want to congratulate the President-elect. Mr. Minister, I want to ask...
Honorable Member, what did you say? What did you say? May you take your seat? May you take your seat?
I was talking to those who are...
May you take your seat, Honorable Member? You said something I didn't get from here. But whatever you have said, if it's not something worth of good taste, I'll retrieve the verbatim, and if it requires attention, it will be given the utmost. Let's avoid passing running commentaries unnecessarily. May you take your seat, Honorable Member? You know, the debate, the business was being transacted in a very sober manner. But the moment you stood up, everything seemed to follow you. May you take your seat, Honorable Member? At times it's not good to withdraw that word.
Honorable Speaker, I withdraw the word. But when I seek for protection, I need to be protected. We are equal here.
May you proceed with your question? Anyway, order. Next honorable member, that one I'll give it attention because I directed you and you seem not to follow it. So I'll personally, the honorable member for Chiengi.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. We are enjoying having two Mbuyas here, Easterners and Northwesterners. And I think Honorable Minister there should bring the law of, not polygamy, what do you call that? So that women from Bemba land can have Easterners and the losses. Mr. Speaker, through you, I would like to find out Honorable Kangombe, please. Mr. Speaker, through you to Honorable Minister, Acting Minister of Justice, transferring the prison service to headquarters to Lusaka, as I've seen on the question, was it for decentralization purposes? I think I would like to find out, I would like the minister to elaborate more, because having the headquarters and the maximum prison in two different areas, and if it says they were trying to cut on expenses, what has been happening in the past? Okay, if we may look from the time of UNIP, MMD, I would like to find out why it has been so. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
I seek your guidance, Mr. Speaker. She was asking the Minister of Justice. Unless she wants me to answer on behalf of the Minister of Justice.
Honorable Speaker, this question, the correctional services, I believe correctional services are under the Ministry of Justice.
Order. Correctional services are under the Ministry of Home Affairs.
Let me ask Mr. Speaker the question to the Minister of Home Affairs. Minister of Home Affairs.
And Internal Security.
And Internal Home Security? Oh, Internal Security. Minister, why have you transferred the headquarters of Correctional Service to Lusaka, and yet we still have some people left in Ikawe? I would like to find out, because before it never used to be like so. So now I want to find out from you, because this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Member for Chiengi is asking me why the Zambia Correctional Service has been moved away from Kabwe, where the maximum prison is. For our own information, Mukobeko is not the only maximum prison we have in the country. We have another maximum prison, Mr. Speaker, in Mwembeshi, Lusaka West. That's one of the maximum prisons we have. Mr. Speaker, what we have decided to do is to ensure that we streamline the operations of the Zambia Correctional Service. Kabwe was difficult to access for other units in the country. And whenever they go to Kabwe for other matters, usually they will be again referred to Lusaka, because that's where the Minister of Finance is, and the other associated security institutions. In order to streamline, we decided to bring Zambia Correctional Service to Lusaka. And it's not the first time, Mr. Speaker, that this has been done. Even under the PF government, it was done, and even under the MMD. But ourselves, we have streamlined in a more efficient manner, such that the officers are happy and all the operational units are happy with what we have done. Honorable Kampyongo can confirm. Don't stand.
Honorable Member for Nyimba.
Thank you, Speaker. Honorable Minister, in MMD time, we saw Zamtel headquarters being moved from Ndola to Lusaka. And what happened to the beautiful buildings in Ndola have become ghost buildings now. You cannot even tell that this is where Zamtel headquarters used to be. If you go in the industrial area, the workshop for Zamtel, now it has been turned into restaurants. And things are not the way they used to be when Zamtel headquarters was based in Copperbelt. Now, you have moved the headquarters for correction services from Kabwe to Lusaka, and you may agree with me that Zambia is not doing well in Kabwe. If I'm not mistaken, if I'm not mistaken, maybe the headquarters also have been moved to Lusaka. My question to you is that what is it? Which measures? You've said you put up measures. We just want to understand which measures are these. And I hope you haven't moved the procurement from Kabwe to Lusaka, meaning Kabwe remains irrelevant. So what measures, Minister, because this is very important for us as a country and for the people of Kabwe, what measures have you put in place that we are not going to see the repeat of Zamtel in Copperbelt, in Ndola particular? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I indicated earlier, we have only moved the office of the Correctional General's office and the supporting staff. The main operations of the Zambia Correctional Service have remained in Kabwe. As I indicated, the Mukobeko maximum prison has remained there. There are about 3 prisons in Kabwe. We have Kalonga Milling, we have our main farms in Kabwe and the other parts of Central Province. So those other operations have not been affected. So the main thrust of correctional services remain in Kabwe.
The Honorable Member for Lukasha.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity also to ask a follow-up question to the Minister. Like everybody else, Honorable Speaker, at the risk of being challenged by my colleagues on the right, I also want to join my colleagues on your left to congratulate President-elect Donald Trump for his second term returning into office. Honorable Minister, I want to ask a question as well. What are the key indicators that were considered to make sure that the core business of the Zambia Correctional Facility will remain intact, because what has moved really is just the administration, and most of the activities will still remain in Kabwe. So what would be the linkage between those who will be operating from Lusaka and those who have remained in Kabwe to ensure that the core business is not affected? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Mr. Speaker, you may not be aware that we have provincial correctional service headquarters in all the provinces of Zambia. What we have done, as I indicated earlier, was to centralize so that these other provincial operations have easy access to the headquarters. As we indicated earlier, we have recognized Zambia Correctional Service as part of the security wings of government. And usually, the Central Joint Operations Committees meet almost weekly in Lusaka. And it was difficult for the heads of Zambia Correctional Service to be traversing from Kabwe to Lusaka almost on a daily basis. So we thought it appropriate that they must be in Lusaka so that there is close liaison between Zambia Correctional Service and other security wings. That was the central point and issue, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Masaiti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Streamlining the operations of the Correctional Service is quite an expensive undertaking, Honorable Minister. You've moved over 300 officers in the process, and major operations, as you have affirmed, are in Kabwe. How much did you spend in this undertaking? Because you've done this years back, so you are able to tell the people of Masaiti how much was spent in this undertaking. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That question was not anticipated. It was not one of those we were going to answer. But if my colleagues wants to raise a question, he can put in a question and we'll respond.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The Honorable Member for Mandevu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The people of Mandevu would like to find out from the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security. He mentioned that the officers are receiving housing allowance since they are not accommodated here in Lusaka. And there is a reason why security officers are usually kept in camps away from civilians. Are there plans, Honorable Minister, to construct accommodation for the staff that has been moved to Lusaka? I thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to state that even under the first phase pertaining to the construction of officer accommodation and housing accommodation for officers, we did construct houses in Osaka and Mwembeshi. Some of them will be accommodated in some of these facilities.
The Honorable Member for Wacha.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Minister, the general feeling by the people of Kabwe, the business community, even the Kabwe Chamber of Commerce and Industry, because as members of Parliament we represent many interest groupings in our constituencies. The general feeling, Honorable Minister, is that stakeholders' engagement was not done by the government through your ministry. And this afternoon, Minister, you've indicated in this House and for the information of the general public out there that the government through your ministry undertook a stakeholders engagement. Which stakeholders, especially in Kabwe, did you engage, Honorable Minister, before the relocation or the transfer of the Zambia Correctional Service headquarters from Kabwe into Lusaka, and why not only transferring the office of the Commissioner General, just the office, but leaving the headquarters in Kabwe? That's the general feeling by the people of Kabwe district. I submit, Mr. Speaker. You are not from Kabwe. You are not from Kabwe, and behave yourself. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my statement is very categorical. I did not in my statement say that there was wide consultation. I did not mention that. I have a statement with me here. Mr. Speaker, as I indicated earlier, we have only relocated a few officers who are under the office of the Correctional General, Commissioner General. The bulk of the operations of the Zambia Correctional Service have remained in Kabwe. That is how the position is. I have noted that my colleague is proposing that we should just relocate the office of the Commissioner General. That is what we have almost done. Only those officers who are working with the Commissioner General have been relocated. The main thrust of the operations have remained in Kabwe.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The clerk will now read the orders of the day.
Supply motion of 5th November, resumption of debate.
When the House adjourned yesterday, Tuesday, 5th November 2024, the House was considering the motion moved by the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning that the House do now resolve into Committee of Supply on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year 1st January 2025 to 31st December 2025, presented to the National Assembly in September 2024. And the chairperson of the Expanded Planning and Budget Committee had just finished debating. Any further debate? Any further debate? The Honourable Member for Kafinsa.
Mr. Speaker, allow me to thank you once again for the opportunity to make a few very, very important comments on this report, which is the report for estimates of revenue and expenditure for the financial year 1st January to 31st December 2025. And I want to thank the chairperson of the committee for providing us with this report, Mr. Speaker, which is actually your report. Mr. Speaker, before I go into details, you are aware, Mr. Speaker, that members of Parliament have got three functions which they are supposed to perform. The first function, Mr. Speaker, is for us to make laws. Our second function, Mr. Speaker, is to provide oversight to the executive. And our third function, Mr. Speaker, is to ensure that we pass the budget. And I will tender my debate based on those three very, very important functions which I will need to perform. And I want to thank the people of Kamfinsa for the opportunity that they've accorded me to represent them and the wider majority. Mr. Speaker, we have a budget that needs to be supported. And on page 3 of this report, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that this report has been done in a format that makes everyone understands what we are going to debate. On top of page 3, and I hope that members of Parliament are actually following what is on page 3. On page 3, Mr. Speaker, table 1, we have 4 economic indicators. Now, economic indicators simply mean how the budget performed how our economy performed last year and whether we are going to achieve the objectives for 2025. And I'll quickly take you, Mr. Speaker, to the performance of the economy and the budget. GDP growth, Mr. Speaker, we targeted that our economy will grow at around 6%. It only grew at 2.2% for the final year. Inflation, Mr. Speaker, we are currently at 15.6%. This is your report, and I'm not cooking up these figures. Mr. Speaker, exchange rate under column 3 is showing that the average is 26.5 kwacha against $1. The budget deficit is currently at 6.4%. Now, Mr. Speaker, if this is how our economy is performing and we have targets for 2025, I'll quickly refer this August House to how we are going to finance our budget, because the budget has to be financed. And to make this conversation easy for our people to follow, Mr. Speaker, one of the ways in which we are actually funding our budget is by issuing what is called government securities. So Bank of Zambia, Mr. Speaker, will announce that those that have got money and they want to lend the money to government, they can go and buy government bonds. I don't know if you are aware, Mr. Speaker, but currently most of our Bank of Zambia bonds have not been performing very well. And I'm saying they've not been performing very well in the context of how much money the Bank of Zambia wants to borrow from our people. Now, why am I bringing this issue to this conversation, Mr. Speaker? It simply means that if people are not interested in buying government bonds, it means that we are going to have a challenge financing our budget. Now, if we can't finance our budget, Mr. Speaker, it means that all these heads that are appearing in this report, we might have a challenge providing public services to our people. It simply means that if people can't buy government bonds and people are not willing to lend money to government, Mr. Speaker, we are going to have a problem to finance our budget. So point number 1, and I was hoping that the Minister of Finance would be available today to be able to respond to some of these very, very important issues. Budget financing, Mr. Speaker, is likely to be affected next year. And the reason it will be affected next year is because so far, the number of people that are willing to buy government securities, unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, the number has gone down. And I thought that this is an issue. When the minister comes to respond, I hope that the leader of government business is taking note of this particular issue. We don't want to come back next year only to be told, unfortunately, the budget cannot be funded. So point number 1, funding for the budget for 2025. Looking at how the economy is performing, looking at the lack of liquidity, why people are not willing to lend money to government, Mr. Speaker, we might have a problem next year. Second observation which I wanted to make, with reference to the performance of our economy currently, the performance of our economy last year is the issue of the cost of borrowing. So, Mr. Speaker, we have a challenge right now, which mainly maybe no one has been able to raise. The issue of how much does it cost for people to borrow money. So if you go to any of our commercial banks, and I don't want to start mentioning the names of banks here, but I think everyone is very much aware that if you went to the top 5 or top 6 banks in Zambia, one bank will tell you for you to borrow money, it will cost you 33% per annum. And Mr. Speaker, it is not simple interest 33%. This is a compounded interest rate, meaning every month the cost of borrowing is going up. You go to another bank, they'll tell you, well, since this bank is lending you at 33, we'll give you at 32%. The lowest interest rate we have in Zambia at the moment, if you want to borrow money, is around 27.5%. Why am I mentioning these factors, Mr. Speaker? If the Ministry of Finance, if government today, Mr. Speaker, is not referring to the indicators, the cost of borrowing, and how it affects the ability of our people to run the economy, Mr. Speaker, we are not going to achieve these microeconomic indicators that we've projected. Minister wants us to, our economy to grow by 6.6%. Mr. Speaker, with the way things are moving, I don't see us achieving 6.6%. Is this Christopher Kangwembe speaking? No, Mr. Speaker, last year we only grew our economy by 2.3%. Currently, Mr. Speaker, we need to start making reference to what the economic indicators are pointing. The economic indicators are pointing to the fact that, Mr. Speaker, we are not going to attain these very key important macroeconomic indicators. And I want to challenge the Minister of Finance. We are debating the budget. We are debating money that has to be raised to support public services. In the absence of us attaining these macroeconomic indicators, with the continued challenge we've had, Mr. Speaker, in the energy sector, we need to find interventions to resolve these problems. My submission, therefore, is that we need to concerted efforts to resolve these challenges. Mr. Speaker, due to the limitation of time, the people of Kanfinsa do support the proposed figures that have been suggested. I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members, I want to remind the House that 10 days was allocated for debate. That gives you ample time to study the budget, and also the expanded budget committee report. You have to look at it. That will help you interrogate the budget, and it has more information that will formulate your debates quite effectively, and urge the whips to ensure that you encourage your members so that they come up with very informative debates. I honor the Vice President adjournment.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the House do now adjourn.
As no notice of an item for debate on the motion of adjournment of the House has been received, I put the question. The question is that the House do now adjourn. Order. Any debate? Any objection? The question is agreed to. The House is now adjourned.
Good afternoon. Thank you for still being with us on Parliament Television. The House have just adjourned, and we now take a look at business that has been considered from the time business resumed at 14:30 hours.
Yes, Tazawel, business resumed at 14:30 hours. Mr. Second Deputy Speaker did make two announcements. Mr. Second Deputy Speaker recognized the presence in the public gallery of students and lecturers from Lungushi University in Kapirimposhi District and pupils and teachers from Holy Cross Convent School in Lusaka District. Mr. Second Deputy Speaker, on behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, warmly welcomed the visitors to the National Assembly.
The House also considered 5 questions for oral answer under Standing Order 80, and we now take a look at some of the questions that were considered. We had question 101, which was asked by Mr. Emmanuel Musonda, who is Lupososhi Member of Parliament, and he did ask the Minister of Green Economy and Environment what measures the government is taking against charcoal burning to mitigate the effects of climate change. And the Minister did respond that some of the measures that government is taking do include that government has identified areas for concentrated charcoal production. The Minister also said that there has been a temporal suspension of issuance of coldwood permits for charcoal production. He also said that government is in the process of putting up new charcoal regulations. The Minister also said that government has intensified sensitization and awareness on negative effects of charcoal burning.
Another question, this is question number 102, came from Lundazi, Member of Parliament, Ms. Brenda Nyirenda, and she directed a question to the Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development She wanted to find out when rehabilitation of Chipata Lundazi Chama Matumbo Road will commence, and the acting minister did respond. He did say that the rehabilitation of the 222 kilometers of the road will be rehabilitated using a grant from the Millennium account once procurements are concluded, while the remaining 133 kilometers of the road will be rehabilitated once funds are secured by the Treasury. In the other part of the question, identified once procurement processes are concluded.